the reporter who got it, he said in his mailbox, said that the front of it is stamped client copy, and he suggested that it did not come from the IRS, but that it was leaked to him potentially by someone in the White House. Was it?
Well, certainly not from the White House, that I can tell you. I don't know where they got it. This guy's been following me for 25 years. He's not much. And I don't know, I have no idea where they got it, but it's illegal. And you're not supposed to have it, and it's not supposed to be leaked. And it's certainly not an embarrassing tax return at all, but it's an illegal thing. They've been doing it, they've done it before, and I think it's a disgrace.
So it showed that you paid about a little less than 25% federal taxes on your income that year, which was more than a lot of people, but it's still less than the 40% that wage earners, people with no investments, would be paying. Is it fair to have a tax system, I know you're doing tax reform soon, where wage earners pay twice the tax that investors do?
Well, I actually paid less than that, and it is not fair because the income was actually $250 million for the year. And if you notice, there was about $100 million in tax deductions and depreciation and various other charges. So actually the income was at the 250 level, and if you look at it, it's really a lower number, and no, I don't think it's fair. And I've been complaining about it for a long time because I don't care about me anymore. I care about the people out there. And, you know, me, I'm very satisfied. I'm not going to go back into building major buildings someday. I'm not going to be doing what I used to do and used to have a good time doing it. This is what I'm doing now, and I'm saving a lot of money. On the airplanes, I saved $725 million. Probably took me a half an hour if you added up all of the times. And we've saved a tremendous amount of money in government already, and that's just the beginning. I will tell you, the tax, people are paying too high a tax. And one of the reasons I want to get the health care taken care of, and it has to come statutorily and for other reasons, various complex reasons having to do with politics and also Congress, it has to come first. It really has to come first. But one of the reasons I want to get it finished, ideally soon, is because I want to start on the taxes. People are paying too high. Companies are paying too high. It's affecting our jobs. It's affecting a lot of things. Now, with that being said, the country's doing right now really well. The level of optimism is up, highest it's been in 15 years. You see the kind of numbers coming out. It's amazing, the enthusiasm. I saw it this morning on Fox and Friends. I like that group of 3 people. But they had a man who was saying, Trump is the greatest president ever, and there will never be one like him. Now, the thing is, I've only been there for like 50 days, but he was very enthusiastic. But he was talking, he's a manufacturer, and I've taken off regulations by the thousands. And we're just starting. We're just starting. So there's great optimism about the economy, but we have to get the taxes reduced.
But you want to start, and you can imagine a system where I think federal top is a little less than 40%. Obviously, taxes at the top on capital are 20, but you'd like to see them at parity.
Oh, it's going to go. Well, it's going to go. First of all, it's going to go way down for the middle class. It's going to go way down for business.
Right.
I'm going to try and get the 15% level if we can for the business. I think we'll probably be a little bit higher than that, but we're going to try and get the 15% level. There's tremendous waste in this country. There's tremendous, the bidding procedures in the country. I'll give you an example, medicine. I met with a man that I really liked, Elijah Cummings, congressman, and he was in my office and so passionate about prescription drugs and drugs, the fact that they're so expensive in this country and so expensive for people. And I'm going to work and put in this bill, or shortly thereafter, a new bill, bidding for drugs and prescription drugs. You go to Europe, they buy them for a fraction from the same company. They buy them for a fraction of what they pay in the United States. Because we have a middleman system, and we have a lot of bad systems, but basically we don't have a good bidding system. And we're going to get drug prices so far lower than they are now, your head will spin.
So you said in a subsequent bill, let's talk about this bill. So it's been 7 years since Obamacare passed, and Republicans have said the whole time, we're going to get rid of it, and we're going to give you something better. Are you satisfied that the bill we're now looking at, that Paul Ryan is pushing, is the best that Republicans could do after 7 years of thinking about it?
I think we're going to have negotiation, but you have to understand, we only have 52. We only have 2 votes. We have a 2-vote margin. And you're always, to get 52 people is very hard. If we had 60 or 60 votes, we could do something differently. But we're never going to get a Democrat vote. They're never going to vote for us. If I had the greatest bill in the history of the world, they would not vote for us because they hate the Republicans, probably hate me, but they hate the Republicans so badly that they can't see straight. So they're always going to vote against us. It's really a shame. because, and that's one of the problems that we have when people come into my office about lowering drug prices, lowering other things. The Democrats are always going to vote against us. It's been simmering for years. The hatred has been there for years, not just with me. I mean, the hatred's been there for years. You know, when I was in Washington years ago, I'd come in and Republicans would fight with the Democrats during the day, and then you'd see them out to dinner at a restaurant and the families would be out. I mean, they got along. The hatred is so incredible. And honestly, it's been like that for a long time. It's been like that through the Obama years. It's been like that to a large extent through the Bush years. But if we had 60 votes, perhaps we'd do it a different way. But the only way you're going to get it passed is with Republican votes, because the Democrats, no matter how bad Obamacare is, and it's the worst anybody's ever seen, it's a disaster. Obamacare is a disaster. The premiums are going up at numbers at as high as 116%. And by the way, this year will be the worst year of all. And I said the other day, they criticized me. I said, look, Obama's gone, smart guy. He put things on. 17 is going to be the worst year because he's gone. He knew that was the year. I mean, you know, let him be out before it implodes. Obamacare is imploding. It's a disaster. And the Democrats know that. If we had the greatest health care bill ever in history, and we needed 8 votes from the Democrats to get us up to the 60 number that you would need, they wouldn't vote for it. So it's a very selfish thing. They're doing a very, very bad disservice to the country.
This bill has as one of its centerpieces a tax cut for investors that would primarily benefit people making over $250,000 a year. Already done pretty well in the past 10 years, as you know.
Yeah.
A Bloomberg analysis showed that counties that voted for you, middle-class and working-class counties, would do far less well under this bill than the counties that voted for Hillary, the more affluent counties.
I know.
It seems like maybe this isn't consistent with the message of the last election.
No, a lot of things aren't consistent. But these are going to be negotiated. We've got to go to the Senate. We're going to see what happens in the Senate. Now, right now, we have 5 or 6 senators that look like maybe they're not going to, I'm talking about Republican senators, because we're not going to get one Democrat to vote for it. Again, if this bill were perfect, if it was the greatest thing for Democrats and Republicans, we wouldn't get one Democrat vote. They're going to vote against it. Because of selfish, because of stupidity, because it's politics. It's really bad for our country, what's going on. I mean, what's going on for years, but it's really bad for our country. We will take care of our people, or I'm not signing it. Okay, just so you understand. This is very preliminary.
That Paul Ryan, I mean, it doesn't seem like you agree on economics or foreign policy or social policy. Are you confident that you share enough in common that he's on board with your interests?
I think he is on board with the American people. I do believe that strongly. I think he is on board with my presidency. I think he wants to make it very successful. I like him. We had our run-ins, as you probably have heard, initially. But I think he is very much on board. He wants to do the right thing. That I believe 100%. We're going to take care of the people. And by the way, if we're not going to take care of the people, I'm not signing anything. I'm not going to be doing it, just so you understand.
Right.
I'm in a little way, I'm an arbitrator. We have the conservatives. We have the more liberal side of the Republican Party. We have the left, we have the right within the Republicans themselves. You got a lot of fighting going on. We have no Democrats. Again, no matter what we do, we're never going to get a Democrat. Maybe we'll get one along the way.
Right.
Now, if we could get, and the one thing they don't add is phase 3, because phase 3 makes a lot of things very good. But if we could get some Democrat vote, we could change the bill. We could have we could have a repeal, which really essentially we have anyway, but we could have a specific repeal. But we're not going to get any Democrats. No matter what we do, it doesn't matter what we do, we're not going to get. For phase 3, we're going to get some Democrats, I believe. Because phase 3, there'll be incentives added, and there's so many good things, including that's where I'm going to put the bidding for medicine. I'm going to put that, I want them to put that in phase 3. Phase 3 is a part of it. You have phase 1, which you know about.
Yeah.
You have phase 2, which is really not a phase. That's where our secretary, who is a terrific guy, by the way, Tom Price, is going to sign away. He's going to sign his heart away, and he's going to get rid of those horrible things that have been signed over the years. And then phase 3, a lot of the goodies are added in, and we're going to add now in medicine. We think we're going to be able to do that. Or I'm going to have a separate bill for the bidding of medicine. We're going to bring the cost of medicine way down, prescription drugs and drugs.
So on March 4th, 6:35 in the morning, you're down in Florida, and you tweet, the former administration wiretapped me, surveilled me at Trump Tower during the last election. How did you find out? You said, I just found out. How did you learn that?
I've been reading about things. I read in, I think it was January 20th, a New York Times article where they were talking about wiretapping. There was an article, I think they used that exact term. I read other things. I watched your friend Bret the day previous, where he was talking about certain very complex sets of things happening and wiretapping. I said, wait a minute, there's a lot of wiretapping being talked about. I've been seeing a lot of things. Now, for the most part, I'm not going to discuss it because we have it before the committee, and we will be submitting things before the committee very soon. That hasn't been submitted as of yet. But it's potentially a very serious situation.
So 51,000 people retweeted that. So a lot of people thought that was plausible. They believe you. You're the president. Yeah. You're in charge of the agencies. Every intelligence agency reports to you. Why not immediately go to them and gather evidence to support that?
Because I don't want to do anything that's going to violate any strength of an agency. You know, we have enough problems. And by the way, with the CIA, I just want people to know, the CIA was hacked and a lot of things taken. That was during the Obama years. That was not during us. That was during the Obama situation. Mike Pompeo is there now doing a fantastic job. But we will be submitting certain things, and I will be perhaps speaking about this next week. But it's right now before the committee, and I think I want to leave it there. I have a lot of confidence in the committee.
Why not wait to tweet about it until you can prove it? Don't you devalue your words when you can't provide evidence?
Because the New York Times wrote about it. You know, not that I respect the New York Times. I call it the failing New York Times. But they did write on January 20th using the word wiretap. Other people have come out with
right, but you're the president. You have the ability to gather all the evidence you want.
I do, but I think that, frankly, we have a lot right now. And I think if you watch... if you watched the Bret and what he was saying and what he was talking about and how he mentioned the word wiretap, you would feel very confident that you could mention the name. He mentioned it, and other people have mentioned it. But if you take a look at some of the things written about wiretapping and eavesdropping, and don't forget, when I say wiretap, those words were in quotes. That really covers, because wiretapping is pretty old-fashioned stuff, but that really covers surveillance and many other things. And nobody ever talks about the fact that it was in quotes, but that's a very important thing. But wiretap covers a lot of different things. I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks.
And you may see some of those on Twitter. The president goes on to talk about tweeting. He's going to keep doing it even though it gets in his own way sometimes. In part 2 of the interview, the president will tell us why. Welcome back. We traveled to the city of Detroit today in Air Force One and interviewed the president there. Here's part 2 of that interview. Do you talk to anyone before you tweet? And is there anyone in the White House who can say to you, Mr. President, please don't tweet that, who you would listen to?
Well, let me tell you about tweeting. I think that maybe I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Twitter, because I get such a fake press, such a dishonest press. I mean, if you look at, and I'm not including Fox because I think Fox has been fair to me, but if you look at CNN and if you look at these other networks, NBC, I made a fortune for NBC with The Apprentice. I had a top show where they were doing horribly, and I had one of the most successful reality shows of all time. And I was on for 14 seasons. And you see what happened when I'm not on. You saw what happened to the show. It was a disaster. I was on, I was very good to NBC, and they are despicable. They're despicable in their coverage. CBS, ABC, you take a look at what's going on. I call it the fake press, the fake media. It is a disgrace what's happening. So,
but then they say to you, but you're, I mean, as you know, the response, look, so you had this big speech to the joint session on Tuesday. You had great press all week, bipartisan, and then you let off this tweet, and immediately people say...
No, it wasn't that tweet. They had
you
other
can't back
things.
Up what you say.
Excuse me. I had a very successful night, joint session. It was very successful. I got reviews even from people that I would never think I was going to get good reviews. I got great reviews.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they came up with a new dialogue in order to kill that. So that speech was hot for about 2 or 3 hours after the speech was made, because they came up with other things having to do with other people that they shouldn't have been able to do and they shouldn't have done. But they did it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the news is not honest, much of the news. It's not honest. And when I have close to 100 million people watching me on Twitter, including Facebook, including all of the Instagram, including POTUS, including lots of things. But we have, you know, I guess pretty close to 100 million people. I have my own form of media. So, you know, if I tweet 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, And if most of them are good, and I really want them all to be good, but if I make one mistake in a month, now this one I don't think is going to prove to be a mistake at all.
Do you think it's okay to make, because the counter-argument, even from people who support you, who say, look, I support Donald Trump, I believe what he believes, and I want him to succeed badly, but if the president says something that cannot be proved or is demonstrably untrue,
well, let's see whether
he devalues his own currency.
Let's see whether or not I proved it. You looked at some proof. I mean, let's see whether or not I prove it. I just don't choose to do it right now. I choose to do it before the committee, and maybe I'll do it before the committee. Maybe I'll do it before I see the result of the committee. But I think we have some very good stuff, and we're in the process of putting it together, and I think it's going to be very demonstrative. But just on Twitter, if I don't do that, I won't get my word out. Because when I say things, the press doesn't cover it accurately. They cover it very inaccurately, much of the press. Some of the press, by the way, some of the finest people I know are reporters. Reporters are wonderful. I'm talking about the fake media, the fake news, and there's a lot of fake news. So if they're not going to do me the honor and the public the honor of spreading my word accurately as it was meant, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because there's been nobody in history that got more dishonest media than I've gotten. You look at some of the stories in the New York Times, you look at some of the stories in the Washington Post, take a look at what's going on with CBS and NBC in particular and ABC, and take a look at CNN. It's a complete hit job. No matter what you do, no matter how good, no matter how great it is, they don't report it in a positive fashion. So when I can reach, whether it's 90 million or 100 million or 80 million, however many people it may turn out to be when you add everything up, and then of course it gets disseminated from there, when I can reach that many people, Twitter is a wonderful thing for me because I get the word out.
Does it ever go through any kind of mediator?
Sure it does, sure.
You sometimes show your staff
sometimes I'll have something and I'll say, what do you think about this? A lot of times my staff comes to me and they say, could you do a tweet or this or that because it's not being shown correctly? I mean, they'll come to me a lot and they'll say, could you do, I probably wouldn't be here. I'm not talking about Twitter because it's really Twitter, Facebook, and lots of other things, okay? But I might not be here talking to you right now as president if I didn't have an honest way of getting the word out.
Last question. European nationalism obviously is flowering, and a lot of it is about immigration and culture. Do you think it's possible to move a large Muslim population into the West and successfully integrate them into Western culture? Have you seen that anywhere?
Well, it's not easy, and it certainly hasn't been easy. You look at Germany, you know, I took a lot of heat over Sweden, and then the next day they had this massive riot. Now nobody talks about it. It certainly has not proven to be easy. At the same time, well, they've been trying, and we'll let you know. The assimilation has been very, very hard. It's been a very, very difficult process. I want this country to be safe. I want this country to be great. It's called Make America Great Again. That's where I got elected. I want people that love our country, and many Muslims do. Many, many Muslims do. But it has been a hard process. If you look at Germany, what's happened? If you look at Sweden, what's happened? If you look at Brussels, take a look at Brussels. I mean, look what's going on. Take a look at so many other places. It has been a very hard process. We are going to try very, very hard to make it work.
Mr. President, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's more of the interview with President Trump. Tune in tomorrow night at 9 for the rest. We're going to ask him how he occupies himself at the end of every workday. It's interesting. Up next, the president just told us he didn't leak his taxes and that whomever did flagrantly broke the law. Got a panel to break that down. Well, during an interview with President Trump today, he told us that he is not responsible for leaking his tax returns, though some suggested he was. The leak certainly seems to have worked out for him. So last night, your tax return from 2005, the first 2 pages, appeared, and the reporter who got it, he said in his mailbox, said that the front of it is stamped client copy, and he suggested that it did not come from the IRS, but that it was leaked to him potentially by someone in the White House. Was it?
Well, certainly not from the White House, that I can tell you. I don't know where they got it. This guy's been following me for 25 years. He's not much. And I don't know, I have no idea where they got it, but it's illegal. And you're not supposed to have it. And it's not supposed to be leaked. And it's certainly not an embarrassing tax return at all, but it's an illegal thing. They've been doing it. They've done it before. And I think it's a disgrace.
We're joined now by Molly Hemingway, a senior editor at The Federalist, and Daniel Halper, Washington bureau chief for the august New York Post. Welcome to you both. To you, Mr. Halper, first. Were you surprised by his answer? He didn't actually seem, while saying it was illegal, upset about the release of these tax returns.
He both didn't seem upset and actually didn't even deny that he knew about it. He just said it didn't come from the White House.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that he did. It's just if you listen to the answer, it's a little strange. Look, the tax returns actually do him a favor, right? Everybody was curious about them. A lot of people were interested. There was a lot of speculation that was rampant throughout the 2016 presidential campaign. Hillary Clinton was going around suggesting he paid no taxes, or he perhaps did something illegal. It doesn't seem that's the case.
Right.
Obviously, these are only a couple pages out of probably hundreds of thousands over years, and obviously we're curious to see more. But it's kind of weird how this has sort of diffused the whole talk about tax returns.
It does seem like it. Molly, I thought the most interesting part of the entire interview, which I'm sure will be ignored by everybody, but was his response to the question about relative tax rates. We tax labor at twice the rate of capital, and for some reason, and there's a bedrock principle of conservative economics, that investors are heroes doing a public service, and people who make a wage are just like mopes benefiting from the kindness of investors. He said they really should be the same rate. I've never heard any Republican say that ever.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I mean, that was one of the interesting things to come out of this 2 pages that we got from 2005 was the high rate that he is paying in taxes. But it is important also to nail down who released this information, because in part journalists are actually asking people at the IRS to leak this. This is a serious felony, up to $5,000 fine, 5 years in prison. Nobody is allowed to release your tax information unless you give permission for it. So it is still important that we think about that, even as frustrated as we are to not have his full tax records.
What's interesting, Daniel Halper, is that when you listen to the president speak, when he gives speeches, when you talk to him one-on-one or on camera, like right there, he's got a very populist view of economics. He's in favor of middle-class economics, and by the way, that's why he got elected, as far as I'm concerned. When you look at some of the proposals, including this health care bill, it's kind of what you would expect from a Chamber of Commerce Republican. We need tax cuts for investors, because I guess they haven't done very well in the last 15 years. There's a huge disconnect between the policy and the language.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when he did talk about health care and his work with Paul Ryan, he was sort of less interested and less detail-oriented than when he was talking about the media, or when he was talking about other things that he was more interested in during your interview with him. And it's sort of revealing, and I think a mistake, perhaps, that they didn't nail down these details in the health care bill before pushing it forward. You asked him, is this the bill that you can support? And he said something like, well, it's on the negotiating table. He didn't quite throw his support behind it, and yet his White House, his people are out there every single day defending it and pushing it forward using his name. So it's a weird, you're right, it's a weird sort of dichotomy between what is it that he stands for, what policies is he exactly pushing, because things are being pushed in his name, and they are being attached to him, and these are consuming days of his presidency.
Pushed by people who don't share his views. And I wonder, Molly, if the White House isn't too trusting that the Republican leadership is going to put into law the things that he ran on. They don't agree with Donald Trump on core issues, I've noticed.
Well, it was interesting also from his speech earlier tonight. He talked about how the bill was based on the principles that he laid out, and Speaker Paul Ryan's office immediately got that out on social media. They are trying to tie themselves to Trump because they think it will help them pass this bill. But it has a huge, so much during the campaign, he was talking about the failures of Obamacare. It would be interesting to find out from him what he considers failures of Obamacare and how this bill even comes close to taking care of those problems, because they repeat a lot of the problems.
I think getting rid of the mandate would be his answer, but I didn't get to that on camera. Thanks to you both. We'll be back to you in just a minute. Well, up next, the president just told us that Obamacare is a disaster, and the Republicans need to get behind House Speaker Paul Ryan's plan to repeal it. A new Fox News poll suggests there's a lot to do to win over the rest of the country. We'll get a reaction from a Republican member of Congress. Stay tuned. Well, in our interview with President Trump, the president said this about the Obamacare law. Are you satisfied that the bill we're now looking at, that Paul Ryan is pushing, is the best that Republicans could do after 7 years of thinking about it?
I think we're going to have negotiation, but you have to understand, we only have 52. We only have 2 votes. We have a 2-vote margin. And you're always, to get 52 people is very hard. If we had 60 or 60 votes, we could do something differently. But we're never going to get a Democrat vote. They're never going to vote for it. Obamacare is a disaster. The premiums are going up at numbers at as high as 116%. And by the way, this year will be the worst year of all. And I said the other day, they criticized me. I said, look, Obama's gone. Smart guy. he put things on. 17 is going to be the worst year because he's gone. He knew that was the year. I mean, you know, let him be out before it implodes. Obamacare is imploding. It's a disaster. And the Democrats know that. If this bill were perfect, if it was the greatest thing for Democrats and Republicans, we wouldn't get one Democrat vote. They're going to vote against it because of selfish, because of stupidity, because it's politics. It's really bad for our country, what's going on. I mean, what's going on for years, but it's really bad for our country. We will take care of our people, or I'm not signing it.
Well, the president says Paul Ryan's Obamacare repeal bill is the solution for the Obamacare disaster, but the American people are apparently wary. A new Fox News poll shows that just 34% of voters favor replacing Obamacare with it, 54% oppose. Congressman Chris Collins of New York was the first congressional Republican to endorse President Trump, and he helped create the new Obamacare repeal bill. He joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yes, good evening. Good to be with you, Tucker.
So you've seen those numbers. You saw what the president just said. He was notably tepid when asked about the details of the new bill, and he said, look, we'll negotiate this. What would you be willing to see go to be stripped from the bill in order to get it through the Congress?
Well, you know, the president, by the way, he was energized. He was confident. I watched your interview. I was certainly proud to call him my president.
Yeah.
He's got boundless energy. What I would say, Tucker, we've been working on this, you know, for a long time, as you know. I've been working on the fundamental changes to Medicaid now for well over a year on a task force to come up with the per capita cap block grant. We have liberal members, you know, from the New Jersey, New York, you know, Ohio areas. We've got the conservatives from Texas, Florida, Louisiana. This is a compromise bill, and with compromise, it's not perfect for anyone, but it accomplishes what we do need to accomplish financially, you know, putting the Medicaid expansion, which we are continuing, that is a compromise, but at a normal reimbursement rate. In the case of New York, 50%, not 90%. But right now, I think what we have is already the compromise plan that the Speaker is going to be bringing to the House floor in about 2 weeks. I don't, frankly, as somebody that's been very involved in this, see too many tweaks coming, because if you tweak at one end, you lose a moderate. You tweak it on another end, you lose a conservative. You know, I think we're right there in the middle, and I think by and large, with you know, maybe a couple of small items, this is what we're going to go forward with.
Well, I mean, you're the authority on the politics of it, not me. But to the substance of it, does it seem a little strange how far this bill is from what President Trump ran on? And apparently it disproportionately helps voters in the upper brackets. I mean, it clearly does. Those are not Trump voters. And yet it also apparently is going to result in the loss of coverage for millions of people. That's kind of the opposite